There we go. I paused while we're having the hubbub with the creating the folder fiasco, so we're back streaming again. So, getting back to this, keyboard shortcuts. So F5, F5 is not only something for the browser. I was showing it to you in Chrome. F5 here. F5 says refresh the page. It's a standard shortcut not only for the browsers, but also you can do it in pretty much any context in Windows. If you're, hold on, Harper's calling again. Yes, Harper. Okay. Let me know once you see it. Okay. Sorry about that. First day, we're working out the kinks with the simulcast, obviously, too. So, Control plus or minus. Who knows what that does? Zoom in, zoom out. So Control plus minus. If you have a mouse, if you hold down the Control key and roll the mouse wheel, you can also zoom in and zoom out. Alt-Tab, Windows-Tab. So Alt-Tab, if you hold down the Alt key and touch the Tab key, you'll look at all of the windows you have open. So it allows you, if you know what you have open, Alt-Tab, you go to the next one. So you're not down there searching at the bottom. You can quickly move between them. Minimize everything to the desktop. Windows D for desktop. And it's a toggle. So if you want to put things back the way they were, Windows D again. Within an application. So right here, we're within Chrome on my screen. So Windows tab and Alt tab, and I showed you Alt tab, which is this. Windows tab is the same thing, just prettier. Escape is the standard, I want to get out, I want to undo whatever I'm doing right here. So escape puts you back to where you were. Lock the computer. It's not relevant here, but in a corporate environment, if you're going to walk away from a computer and you want the lock screen to come up, Windows L. The run dialog, we need to talk a little bit about what the command line is. So Windows R, and that opens up your little run dialog down there. What that is, it allows you to type in a command to the computer, and the computer is going to take it and execute it if it can find what you're referencing. So if I type in CMD, which is the command window, it will find that program and it'll execute it. And it does that through the path. In Windows, nothing's magic about computers. That's one of the things you're going to find out. It's all logic. It's just a matter of how does it know how to do that. In Windows, it's often down to the way your environment variables are configured and what's in your registry. So who knows what the registry is? The registry is, type in Windows R for the run dialog, and it's actually the same dialog if you click on Windows, and on some of your computers you'll have a little run button. But if you type in regedit, press enter, this is the registry editor, and it's very important that you don't change anything in here. This is your Windows system database. It's actually a specially formatted proprietary file that Windows stores and maintains automatically. When you install something, for instance, here's PostgreSQL, under what's called hives. At the very top level, you've got computer, and you've got HKey class as root, current user, local machine, and in developer parlance, HKLM, HKey local machine. So these days, you don't talk too much about the Windows registry. I want you to, and that's the whole point about this whole discussion. I should have prefaced it. you don't need to memorize what I'm telling you, but you need to know if I say it's in the registry, you need to know what I'm talking about. When you install, say you write a Windows executable, we're going to teach you C#. You write a Windows executable in C#, you install it on a computer. So it's going to be not in the browser, you've installed an executable. You're probably going to have that in your registry somewhere. So you're going to have under HK local machine, software, and let's take a look at PostgreSQL. So you have your company name. So underneath that, you might have other things. So each one of these is called a key in the registry, the things that look like folders or directories. These things underneath the key are actually called values, key value pairs. You can double click. Now don't change anything in here because let's take a look at this one, the data directory. You know when you go through an installation, as you all have done if you went through the installations.html, it walked you through the step-by-step wizard and it said, where do you want me to put things? This is where it stored all that stuff. So if you needed to go back and change things after the fact, there's always a way. It's just a matter of, is the software vendor going to want you to do that? Did they encrypt this? Because sometimes things in here are not just clear text like this. So if I made a mistake in my installation and I wanted to do that, that's probably going to break something. So I'm not going to do that. How do I cancel that? I could either click the cancel. Here's another thing about Windows. You see how the OK is kind of bold, or it has a little highlighted box around it, and the cancel is kind of gray in back? That means if I pressed Enter, the default button on this dialog is going to be the bolded one. Pressing Enter will click it for me. The cancel here, the one that's kind of grayish, if I press Escape, it will click that for me. So I click Cancel, I pressed Escape, and it clicked the cancel button for me. So the reason, once again, I'm not trying to be remedial here. I'm trying to show you, here are other ways to do it, and this is how developers often do it so they can save some time. So closing a window, right here, Registry Editor. Alt F4 closes any window you currently have focus on.
Do you want to upload the shortcut key page on Slack?
Sure. Let's see. Yeah, so you can follow along with this. So let me do. Oh, also in Slack, in case you haven't figured it out yet, you can share files very easily. Let's see. Let's do Empower Public. You can drag and drop. And you all will have it under Empower Public right there. Now, later on, that's not the preferred way of sharing files. The preferred way is going to be using GitHub. So GitHub is source code control, but it can also be used for sharing pretty much anything on your hard drive. So let's go down through some other things with Windows. So the disk layout. Everybody's created a C Projects and Empower folder directory. If you have more than one disk, you're going to have more than one disk letter here defined to Windows. We're going to talk a little bit about Linux later on in the class. We'll teach you about how they like to think about their standard directories. Some special directories in Windows, things that you shouldn't mess with because that's where, by convention, that's where things get installed. C program files, and if you're on a 64-bit versus a 32-bit computer, you'll have two directories here. x86 means your 32-bit stuff. Program files, if you're on a 64-bit, will be your 64-bit stuff. Under Windows, this is going to be the Windows system DLLs. So these are all the programs that make Windows run. So when you turn it on, it authenticates you. Let's take a look at like some of the built-in programs like Notepad. This is where they live. There's no magic. It's just a matter of it's all code that somebody has written that lives on your computer. And the niceties and the magic, what feels like magic, is Microsoft making it very easy for you to execute that code, putting nice icons next to it and so on. But if I wanted to execute this directly, here's how I might do that. Go to C Windows on your own computers. Hold down the Shift key. And Okay. Doesn't want to do it in there. Yeah, I have PowerShell. You're going to have open command window here or something. So hold down the Shift key and right-click in the white space, and you should have something like open PowerShell window or open command window here. Yours is probably going to be black if it's command window. It'll be blue if it's PowerShell. I want to show you, this is the command line. So the command line is, notice the format here. We have C and Windows. That's a path. This says, where are you on the disk right now? So think about being in a certain location, and what is in my location right now? It's all these other files listed here. So there are some other commands that we're going to teach you a little bit about with the command line. So if you want to see what's in this directory, type in dir, and it'll give you a list. Obviously, it's scrolled by so quickly that you can't really make sense of what's in there, which is why people like Windows and the graphical user interface, you can scroll up and down. The command line is useful for developers because you can go directly to that path, and you can run that program, and it will execute. For instance, in C Windows, that's where Notepad lives. So if you type in notepad.exe and press Enter, it will pop up with Notepad. You didn't double-click on anything. You just ran the program directly. How do we close a window that has focus? Alt F4. How do you close a command window or PowerShell window? Exit and press Enter. Okay, some of the things that you probably need to set up that you don't have set up by default if you're a typical user is, let's show some of the behind-the-scenes wizard stuff that you'll need to know, because we're going to be writing some of that code. So under View in Windows Explorer, so how do you get to Windows Explorer again? Windows E, or right-click on the Start button and choose File, Explorer. Go to View, and over here, I've got Windows 10 on this computer, but hide selected items, make that show selected items, and show file name extensions, and check on hidden items. The reason being is because a lot of the special files that Windows says, oh, that's secure, we don't want to show you about what that is, they're DLLs. And when you write C# and you compile it, they're DLLs. So you won't even know what type of file it is unless you show the file extensions. Much less sometimes it'll hide them from you if you have them in certain directories. Like, where did my code go? You need to see things as a developer. So over here, let's go to, under Options, this is Windows 10, so they tried to pull some of this stuff out of a dialog and put it on the menu. Let's go to the old dialog, which will be the same on Windows 7, 8, and 10. Under Options, change Folder and Search Options. I think on Windows 7, it's under the File, Organize. So everybody get to this dialog where it says Folder Options, and then click on the View tab. Okay, and right here at the top, you're going to see Hidden Files and Folders. Click on the radio button here, Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives. Uncheck the Hide Extensions for Known Types, and uncheck Hide Protected Operating System Files. So those three things, so kind of make it like this looks here.
But we will have hide folder merge conflict.
You can leave that one.
Can you do?
So what are
How did I get here?
Yes.
What
Okay.
are we doing here, Ali?
Okay, what we're doing is, let me turn this back off, and let me show you how it looks. See, all these things have PDF on them?
Right.
Let me put it back the way it probably looks on your screen right now.
Oh, okay.
So let me put it back. Let's say hide that, show, hide.
Oh, the actual file extension.
Yeah, so see, it says get right there. And you can say type in PDF, but that's not really helpful. And if I wanted to change the name, you know, F2, it doesn't even show me the extensions. How do I even change the extension? You can't. It's tying your hands. It's treating you like a user. You're no longer a user. You're a developer.
Just real quick. Is there any way that you can make it resolution so that actually it's a larger image, each of the checkboxes and words? show up as a larger image on the sheet.
I don't think so. I'll go a little bit slower just to show you what it should look like and what we're trying to do here. So this is what it looks like before.
Right.
Click on View if you're in Windows 10. And anybody have Windows 7? No? Okay. Windows 7, they have the same dialog. You just have to get to it from underneath, I believe, the File menu. Under Options, change folder and search options. And this is the Folder Options dialog. Click on the View tab. Now here, there are 3 settings we need to change.
Right.
Under Hidden Files and Folders, click on Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives. You're a developer, nothing should be hidden.
On the one?
On Hide Extensions for Known File Types, no. Show us the extensions. Sometimes we need to change them. And Windows really doesn't expect most people to be a developer, so when you uncheck Hide Protected Operating System Files, recommended, what they're trying to do is hide DLLs that users will tend to delete. And if you delete an important DLL, your computer sometimes won't boot. So they're trying to protect users from hurting themselves. We're taking off all the governors. There are going to be a lot of sharp edges. Just be careful.
So do we uncheck it?
You uncheck it, it's going to complain, and you say, are you sure? Yes. And then you click OK. Now, this is the same directory after, so I can see the PDF extensions. So if I wanted to do something silly like rename that .pdf to .txt, why might you want to do that? As a developer, sometimes you actually need to see the text. You need to see what it's made of. I can rename it. Now, you can do this if you like. Just be sure to rename it back. And Windows, once again, says, wait a minute, you're doing something I don't think you should be doing. Trust me, Windows. So right there, we have a PDF file, but I renamed it text.
So does it change of the file? Does it change the file?
Nothing happened to the file. We just, now, if I double-clicked on this, Windows associates text files to be opened by default with Notepad, probably.
Right.
How does it do that? It's not magic. It's the registry.
Right.
Let's go. You don't follow me here, but I'll show you where it is. So I'm going to go Windows R. Once again, that Windows shortcut thing is important. I'm going to type in regedit and press Enter. And I'm going to, I think it's HKey classes root. And I'm going to search for a file extension. So .txt is under HKey classes root, and you can see the path up here. .txt, and it says, oh, shell new, item name. So all that craziness right there is the internals of Windows about how it knows to run Notepad when you double-click on a file that has a .txt extension.
Right.
So what is it saying here? It says, oh, when you double-click, I'm going to go to system root. That's a special Windows, what's the word for it? It's an environment path expansion. So system root resolves to C Windows, and apparently there's notepad.exe in system32 as well. So C Windows, system32 notepad, and it's passing some special -470 flag, which I have no idea what it means.
When you open it, what happens?
Well, I'm going to close the registry once again, but if I double-click or press, if you have the file in focus in Windows Explorer, and you press Enter, it's the same thing as double-clicking. So I'm going to press Enter, and it says, well, that's because it's in Dropbox, and it's not actually downloaded. But if I go to, let's see.
It's a PDF.
Yeah, let me do this same thing. Here's an invoice, Gravatar, Iceland. Okay, so that's a JPEG. That's an image.
Right.
So we can open that up. It's a nice, pretty picture. That's my background.
Right.
I'm going to do the same thing here.
Change that one.
Change the .txt. Open it up, and now my editor is not Notepad. I have EM Editor installed, which you all probably have it installed now too. And it's saying, oh, it took a peek at the file, and it says, oh, this isn't text. What do you want to do with it? This file has been passed to EM Editor, and EM Editor is smart enough to look at the file and try to present it in a way that would make sense to me. And I'm going to say, you know, just show it to me. And that's what a file looks like, a PNG in this case, with its internals. So this is the pure binary format. Now, would you do anything with this? If you're a hacker and you want to send some message to somebody across the world, you send it as a PNG file. You might put something crazy in here if you don't mangle the format. Who's going to look in a PNG for a message? Probably not too many people. So change it back to PNG. Obviously, it's not going to do anybody any good as a text file. And you didn't mangle the file. All you did is you told Windows, by changing its file extension, open it with a different program. And that different program is probably not appropriate. So I'm going very fast, and we've covered maybe a third of what we're going to. Y'all good with this pace? Yeah. Somebody from Richmond? Richmond, you with us? I'm going to assume so. If not, Harper would probably be calling me yet again.
Yeah, I think they can
Yep.
see our screen better than we can.
So let's go. Yeah, they've got a huge monitor over there. So file extensions, unhide operating system files, security architecture, domain, users, groups, folders, files. Okay. Let's not talk about domains, but let's talk about users. When you log in, Windows knows exactly who you are, and it has a special home directory for you. This is a concept you need to become familiar with. So, on Windows 10, it's under C users. That's a special directory where Windows will create a directory per profile that logs in. This is also where you get your desktop. So I am actually logged in under the crazy username of, I believe, SSC17. Okay? So I go to SSC17, desktop. This is a special Windows folder that says whatever is in here will be on your desktop. So if you want to put something on your desktop, all you're really doing is putting in this folder. Now, why do I have 2 files in here and I have 4 different icons here? Oh, by the way, one of the side effects of turning on the system files is you'll have little crazy files running around now. Desktop.ini in your desktop. Don't worry about it. Just ignore them. It's one of the downsides of actually being developers. Sometimes you see all the internal guts. Don't delete them. They just need to live there. But they're hidden normally. So, how do I have 4 icons on my desktop? Finally have 2 under my user profile. It's because there's also in all users or default. And I believe, see, notice how after we turned on hidden files and folders, it's kind of grayed out. That means if I didn't have that turned on, it would be hidden from me. It's not under default. It's got to be under public. I'm showing you how the public desktop is, it has the other 2 icons here. So I have 4 icons on my desktop, but I only showed 2 under my desktop under my profile specifically. It's because it's the full complements of the public and my own. So if I wanted to delete this, or, you know, we like to mangle things, let's just rename it. And immediately, if you look on my desktop, it's renamed as well. So there's only 1 copy. When you change it in one place, you're changing it in both. That's why this is a special folder. Once again, we're going through the process of taking off the training wheels. Let's turn off, and Harper's about to scream probably in Richmond, user account control.
In the same folder we're in a while ago?
Nope. Click on Start. And start typing user account. And you'll come up with this little blue flag thing. Click on it. And it's probably up here, the little highlighted bold one there. This is what tells Windows that, oh, every time you install something, have like 3 different pop-ups. And it's like, are you sure? Are you really, really, really sure? This is the way you make all that go away.
It asks you if you're sure.
Yeah. Ironically. So let me put mine back the way it was by default. So this is where it is by default, and let me go back there again. So click on Start, user account control. Just start typing user ACC. Click on that. And now, if I try to change it, just drag it down. And it says not recommended. Yeah, trust me. Click OK. And it says, wait a minute. You're about to take away my little prompts. Are you sure? Yes. Now, we've taken away one of the biggest safeguards Windows has to help you prevent getting a virus.
Why?
Viruses work oftentimes by you double-clicking on something you shouldn't have, or downloading something and had a little bit of a Trojan horse, or something that you didn't really know where it was from. It's got some malware in it. Whenever those things try to install themselves, or say put themselves on the registry, or make themselves run whenever you start your computer up, or mine cryptocurrency, they have to install something on your hard disk. User account control will have those little pop-ups that says, wait a minute, this program's about to make a change. Are you sure? By changing that user account control setting to the lowest, it's not going to prompt you anymore. I'm comfortable doing that because I never click on anything I don't know exactly where it came from. And most of what I click on is my own code. So if you want to put it back, if you're not sure, you may actually have some bad stuff on your computer, or you don't trust yourself to be tempted and click that phishing attack from Nigeria, feel free, put it back, you know? But if you want to make the prompts go away, turn it down to the lowest setting.
I mean, maybe put mine up, you see?
So command line, relative and absolute paths. So we talked about Windows Explorer, and we talked about, these are paths, and we talked about C, projects, and power. You should all have something that looks like this now, and it's completely empty.
It's not in projects.
So the way you can create directories, let's go, I'm going to switch back and forth between the command line and Windows Explorer, just to show you that it's two sides of the same coin. So go to your C projects directory in Windows Explorer. Hold down the Shift key and right-click. Choose Open Command Window or PowerShell window here, just like we did before. And it'll come up with a command line with that context. So the command line is different. You're only in one place at one time. So if you want to see where you are, you can say CD, and it's like, okay, this is where you are, C projects. If I want to move, change my context, you can actually use change directory CD to Empower. And notice the prompt changes to C projects Empower. Now, is there anything in Empower? I don't know. Let's find out. dir. And Kathy is one of the ones that originally taught me this on a different operating system. This concept of, she was teaching me the DEC OpenVMS at the time. This is an amazingly common concept. You need to understand disk, paths, directories, and how to move around. And because it's a common concept across Linux, Mac, Windows, you name it, any operating system you've never seen before, you can probably get to the command line, and you can probably start navigating and figure out what's there if you understand the basics of how you navigate. So, in Linux, ls, and if you're using PowerShell, if you happen to use PowerShell instead of command line doesn't know ls. It's not smart enough. It doesn't have that in its path. dir is the equivalent. On Linux, Mac, it's ls. If you want to go up a directory, cd ... means up. Now I'm in C projects, so if I want to go up one more, I could do cd space ... So cd is the program name. There's no magic here. It just happens to be a program whose whole purpose in life is to move your context. So I'm sending a parameter to my program that somebody else wrote, up ... So if I want to go down from where I am, you just list the name of the directory. Now, I'm going to go, you can chain them together. So if I want to go cd up projects Empower. That's a silly way of doing it, but it works. Because all it does is it takes one step at a time. On Windows, use a / to separate your directory names. On Linux, you just use the other slash. So Linux is not relevant now, but 4 or 5 weeks from now, you're going to remember how similar it is. So if I want to go all the way to the C drive, how do I do that? Just dot dot backslash dot dot. Up, up.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's up, up, yeah. Actually, because I'm using PowerShell, the / works. PowerShell has, it's friendly to Linux type commands, and I apologize that. Windows is actually the backslash, Linux is the /. On the internet, /. All these up here.
Oh no, what's this?
So, now let's go.
What did do when you make an error?
Let's go into projects. Now, one of the tricks that you can do, if you start typing and you're just like, oh, it's a really long name, I don't want to type the whole damn thing, press tab. Now, because I'm not in, okay, so apparently PowerShell likes to guess wrong. But what it should do is it should, there. Apparently what PowerShell does is it says, I'm going to take the first in the list no matter what. On Linux, it will give you a list of the matching options. So projects, so type enough so that it's going to be unique, and it will help you by pressing the tab. So if I start typing EM, press tab, it will finish it for me. Then all I have to do is press enter.
I put a space. I didn't put a space.
So
I didn't put a space. I didn't put a space after C.
that's the basics of command line.
How do I?
There's a whole lot more to command line, but we're going to let you pick those up over time. So, for instance, if I want to create a subdirectory inside of Empower, there's a command called make directory, mkdir.
So I delete this.
And I just created mkdir. It's another program that somebody else wrote, and I passed it one parameter, the word test. That's the name of the new directory that I want to create. Where am I going to create it? Wherever you are. So remember, a command line is context sensitive. I am in C projects Empower. I'm creating a directory in that. So now, if I go back over here, C projects Empower, there is a test subdirectory. It exists. If I create a text file here, and go back over here, if I say dir, okay, so it says you've got a subdirectory called test. If I want to say what's inside of test, it says, oh, you've got an x.txt. So if I want to execute it, that's the same thing as double-clicking it. So it's all the same thing, and I'm trying to put the pieces together for you. So how do you close things quickly? Alt F4. How do I get out of here? Exit. Alt F4. Okay? So you see how knowing the shortcuts makes you at least twice as fast. That's important. You need to be focusing on business problems and your technology, not getting hung up on how to create a directory the old way. So let's talk about relative and absolute paths. So I'm going to go here. Actually, I've got a little.
Question.
Please put it in the.
Put it in the thing.
Yeah. I've actually got a little exercise so that you can try practicing this yourself. But you need to have GitHub to be able to pull down the directory structure. So let's do that this afternoon. Remember what I've just taught you about the command line? And the command line is nothing special. All it is talking directly to a computer and giving commands instead of using the graphical user interface. So there is a little practice we're going to have this afternoon to be able to test your ability to create your own directories, to navigate. The only thing I wanted to leave you with is, this is a command window, by the way. the difference between an absolute and a relative path. So C users SSC 17 is an absolute path. Absolute path means you start from the root of the drive and you go all the way down. There's only one way to say it. A relative path means you're in one directory and you want to go to another directory. So how do I go from here to there? That's where you go up and then down again. You're kind of drawing a map from here to there. Absolute is you're always leaving from home. So if I'm going to say that right there, C users public desktop, is an example of an absolute path. A relative path to get from public desktop to C users SSC 17. I'll show you what that looks like. This is yet another GUI. If you've installed Git, you will have this. This is Git bash. This speaks Linux. And you're going to find that Windows commands don't necessarily work here, but Linux ones do. They do it the same way. I'm going to show you the relative path using a Linux command, and you're going to see, oh, that's identical to Windows. So C users public desktop. Notice there are forward slashes here because that's Linux friendly. Over here, it's Windows friendly. So how do I get from C users public desktop to C users SSC 17?
Space dot dot.
So that's going to, if we go up to, we're going to be in C users, right?
Right.
And now we want to go down, right? And PWD, yeah. Thanks. C users SSC 17. So we made it, and if we want, we don't actually have to go there. CD means change my current directory. If we want to just list, so dir on Windows or ls, you can list remotely. So you can say ls, and I'm going to give, you all tell me if this is an absolute or a relative path. It's absolute because I specified the root. It's C. Now, if I just said relative would be starting from here, how do I go there? So I am currently in C users SSC 17. So I need to go back. I'm going to say, we're not going to, the only difference is the command. ls means list. I'm going to show me what's in there. But we still have to have the path, the relative path. In this, with practice, it becomes a lot easier. You start thinking about, okay, go up, go down. It's not that hard, it just takes practice. So from here, I'm going to go up to users, and I am going to go down to public, down to desktop. So I'm listing what's in the other location. Anyway, that's enough for that. I'm trying to introduce you to the command line so you're not afraid of it. Everything really runs in this context, and being able to navigate in this way is eventually going to be important. How do you get out? Exit. Okay, so it's 11:12. Let's go through, the rest of this stuff is going to be really quick, showing you some more Windows things that you probably didn't know existed. Internet Information Server, that is a web server. I think I'll leave Harper to explain that this afternoon. He's going to talk about the Windows architecture, the web architecture. And Internet Information Server is the web server that comes with Windows. So he's going to tell you about how that fits into the whole stack. Okay, so computer properties. How do you tell what kind of computer, what your configuration is? Let's see. So on Windows 10, you can click on the Start button, type in this space PC, and right-click and choose Properties. And this tells me, okay, what's my computer name, which is important when you're talking about the computer across the network. So if I want to talk to, we've talked about two different types of paths. We've talked about relative and absolute. There's another one called UNC paths. Relative and absolute work great when I'm on one computer. But if I want to talk to Melissa's computer, I need to know the name of Melissa's computer. And then I need to know what the structure of her directories are inside of that. All you do there is, I would say, ls something like that. Now, so that is a little bit different. Notice the start of it is \\\. That means, oh, expect a UNC path. That means I'm going to be talking across the network. So it allows me to reference a computer that's not here. So the first thing is the name of the other computer you're talking to. Everything else is like an absolute path. So one other thing to mention here is that notice that space. You'll quickly find that developers don't like to have spaces in file names or folder names, because when you have spaces, you have to put delimiters around them. You have to tell it, oh, when that space comes up, I don't mean that's the end of my command. I really mean that as a long path. So you'll find yourself that's why you see all these underscores and hyphens and developers naming things, because they don't like to have to spend the time to put a double quote around this and that to make the computer understand what they mean. If I didn't have a space in program space files, if I had program underscore files, I don't need to write that delimiter. The reason for the delimiter is so that the program knows this whole thing is one path. It's optional if you don't have any spaces. So, 3 paths. We have absolute. You're on one computer. You're talking about from the root of the drive all the way down. Second is relative. You're in a current working directory, and you're going to reference another one. So what's the map to get from here to there? UNC path is I'm talking across the network, and I want to talk about that server, that folder, that file. So the first bit is \\\, name of the other computer. Then everything else is an absolute. So back to your system information. You have, this is your RAM. This is the type of your processor. Some basic information. From here, I want you to click on Advanced System Settings. You're going to quickly understand that Advanced System Settings, they're talking about you. You're a developer now. So advanced means, yeah, that's us. Click on Environment Variables. So dispelling some of the magic of Windows again. We talked about the registry and how Windows knows to open, say, Notepad or EM Editor when I double-click on a text file. Here is another little piece on how Windows knows to do certain things. When you double-click on, or when I typed in, say I'll run a Ruby file. Ruby file's in .rb. Well, it's one thing for Windows to understand that RB is a Ruby file, but it's another to actually know where is the program or programs that are the word Ruby. So if I'm going to run a Ruby file, I would say Ruby space the name of my Ruby script. But if I just say Ruby, where is this thing called Ruby? Windows will use the path to figure out, here is a list, and now that you know what directories are, here are all the absolute paths. And go ahead and open this on your own computer if you haven't already, of where things are possibly installed. And it's listed in order of priority. So what Windows is actually doing inside, when I say Ruby space something, it immediately says, what is this thing called Ruby? And it goes through and it tries to find anything named Ruby in these absolute paths, one by one. And when it finds one, it runs it for you. If it doesn't find one, it's going to complain and says, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's not magic. So I've got a whole bunch of things, and now that you went through the installations, you probably have a whole bunch of things too. SQL Server is one of the worst offenders. I've got like 4 different versions of SQL Server on here, and each one likes to install 2 or 3 different directories of executables. So I've got lots and lots of paths here. Can you use these for yourself? if you wanted to write a program that looked for a certain environment variable, sure you can. How do you see what environment variables exist? Go ahead and open a command window again, and you can do that. I'm going to show you multiple different ways of doing the same thing. This time do Windows R, type in CMD, and that will open a Windows command window. And a command in this environment that allows you to list things. Show me my environment variables. You pretend like you're going to set an environment variable, set. And then it'll say, oh, here is everything on your local computer that's been set. So my home path environment variable is equal to that. Now this would look like gobbledygook had we not talked about paths 10 minutes ago. Now you understand, oh, all this is C, users, SSC17. All it's doing is saying, this is how you get to that file. So down here, there's a very long one called path. And that is actually what, in the graphical user interface, is actually showing how it's stored on disk. In reality, it's stored with semicolons delimiting. You'll soon become familiar with the word delimiter. Delimiter means separate this value from the next value. Identify this variable. So it's the start and end of something. So in the path, it's delimited by semicolons. Strings, which I'm not going to talk about strings yet because we don't know what a variable is yet. We'll get there soon enough. Strings are delimited usually by double quotes or single quotes. So that's environment variables. There are some other things in here that we're going to get to a different way. Okay. Did you know that if you double-clicked on a CMD file, a BAT file, or a VBS file, it would actually run code immediately? And old-time viruses, 15, 20 years ago, before there was email protections and spam filters and that sort of thing, it was so easy to dupe users into doing whatever you wanted them to do. All you'd have to do is say, not that I ever did this, but you could send them a VBS file or a CMD file, and it's like, double-click this. In Windows, what is Windows going to do? It's like, oh, I know what a CMD is. I'm going to go into my registry, and what do I do with that? Oh, I just executed it. So you could write whatever code you want and put it in a CMD or BAT. BAT is short for Windows Batch. CMD is the more modern way of saying the same type of file. VBS is Visual Basic Script. These are three different shell languages that Windows just knows how to run. So if I actually want to run any code from scratch, just type it in, save it as a text file, give it the extension .vbs or whatever I want, double-click on it. It will run with no questions asked. So good to know. Use it wisely.
Name it must-see video.
Yeah, and once you open that, what context are you running it? What can you do? Whatever access the current user who's running the program has access to do. And most users are administrators of their own computer. So if you want to open up their contact list, see if they have email installed, send a little message to try to propagate yourself to everybody else they know, go ahead. If you want to delete their hard disk, if you want to encrypt their hard disk and hold it ransom for cryptocurrency, this is the bad side of the internet. This is what you can do bad as a developer. I'm showing you this because you need to know what's possible and what not to do. These days, Windows and Linux, they do have protections, one of which we just turned off, user account control. So you want to turn it back on now, go ahead. But
Already did.
Just be careful about what you double-click on. Developers can be very powerful, and not all of them are ethical. So, PS, there's another one. PowerShell, I always forget about. That's a newer. Windows every 3 or 4 years comes out with, oh, we've got a brand new shell language that you can use. PowerShell is yet another one. Let me show you some code. Let's do, just to show you that I'm not lying about the VB script stuff. Actually, I don't even have it down yet. We will do that this afternoon. Actually, I'm going to put that on Harper. I've got 6 programs written in 6 different languages, one of which is VB Script. They're very simple. They show you what a variable is, what a function is, but I wanted to show you all you have to do in Windows is double-click on it, and it'll run. We'll do that a little bit later on. Harper can do that this afternoon. Okay. You know what? Rather than power through the rest of this, let's take a 5-minute break. Let's come back in really 5 minutes, say 11:30 on the dot, and let's finish the rest of this.